Guys, what's up? So I wanted to talk today about a overall concept of learning jiu-jitsu and how I approach learning jiu-jitsu over the years, and how I can sort of formulate that in or articulate that in a way that may be easier for people to understand, and hopefully it'll give you the understanding of how to open up your game a little bit more and how to be less afraid of losing in jiu-jitsu. So when we're training jiu-jitsu, I want to set the premise of this. When we're training jiu-jitsu, it's important to understand that there's no winning and losing. We're just training positions. We're learning about the art. We're learning how to do this thing called jiu-jitsu. So if you start thinking about yourself at training as winning and losing, you're going to start to have quite a hard time of becoming very, very good at jiu-jitsu. Of course, there's going to be a competitive ego on the mat where you don't want to lose positions and things like that. But you are going to have to force yourself eventually, even against your will, to be able to be good at these positions that you don't want to work on, because otherwise you're not going to be complete in jiu-jitsu. So you may be having success within jiu-jitsu right now with certain positions, which is great, and you should maintain the success of those positions, but not to the detriment of other things within jiu-jitsu. You shouldn't be so good at one position or two positions or three positions and extremely bad at all the other positions. And that's why I go to this analogy of the cups of jiu-jitsu and how you approach your jiu-jitsu and kind of how jiu-jitsu works within the learning process, right? So let's imagine that we have two cups of jiu-jitsu. We have a defensive cup on this side and an offensive cup on this side. We come through the door of jiu-jitsu. First day, never trained before. We got no water in any of those cups because we don't know anything. As we start to train, we realize that the cup of the defensive cup is starting to fill up a lot faster than the offensive cup. The offensive cup is going to be our controlling, our transitioning in good positions, and our submissions and things like that, right? That's just all in everything that allows us to be in control of the role or gain an upper hand in the role is in the offensive cup. And all the stuff that is like escaping, defending, surviving is in the defensive cup. And as we start training as a white belt, we see that we're getting little bits of a couple of drops here and there and maybe a little trickle of offense in our cup, but our defensive cup is getting really, really strong. And then we go through to blue belt, even maybe purple belt. And as we start going through that blue and purple, we're getting the end of that blue going into purple, the cups are starting to sort of even out a little bit. And then purple, brown, they're sort of evening off again. And then brown, black, it's kind of going the other way, right? And what happens is, as people start getting better at jiu-jitsu, they start filling up their offensive cup. They've done so much work in defense over those years that they just sort of forget a little bit about maintaining that defensive cup, and that offensive cup kind of fills up a little too much and it sort of gets really high. And they're going to get away with it in the gym because, they're the best guys in the gym. They're the number one guys, right? They're the head of the gym. They're the, it's hard for them to get, there's maybe out of 100% of the gym, maybe 80% of the people that method of having a really strong offense and not a great defensive cup gets them by. And they start to fall into the bit of a trap of like, I'm winning 80-90% of my roles. I'm able to dominate most of the positions most of the time. So it must be working for me. So I'm going to continue to do that. What they've failed to realize is that they've only worked one side of jiu-jitsu. So realistically, even though they're controlling well, they're submitting well, their cup is their cup is 100% full on the offensive side, but their jiu-jitsu as a whole, if we take both cups together, they're only 50% full, right? We want to make sure that when we're doing jiu-jitsu and we're getting to those higher levels of jiu-jitsu, or even as we're moving through jiu-jitsu, that yes, as a white belt, there's going to be a higher defensive cup than there is offensive. But we want to maintain that defensive cup and bring our offensive cup up to our defensive cup, making it 100% a jiu-jitsu, good at 100% of our jiu-jitsu, not just having 50%, or on the flip side, 50%. Sometimes there's people that go through jiu-jitsu that have a very high defensive skills early on, but they never break out of that defensive skill and their offensive skill stays low. These are the people that are just the ones that sit there, and they'll hold their neck and they don't move, or they hop into guard and they hold you in guard. They don't want to move out of position, or they get to a pass and they'll hold you, but they never really pass, but they just hold on until the round finishes, right? They're not opening up anything. And this happens on defensive, but it also happens in offensive. The guys who are super offensive, they can get on the mat, they can smash everybody, but as soon as you put them in a bad position, or that guy comes into the club, or they have a couple of those guys that can beat them, and then all of a sudden their defense is not good. They don't know how to get out of position. They go from being a really, really good brown or black belt, and then all of a sudden they get put on the back foot and they're like a blue belt. Their level isn't matching. We want to make sure that yes, like I said, white belt's going to be up here defensively. As that transitions through, it's going to kind of drop a little bit, and then we want to fill both of those together. And we want to make sure that our defensive cup is just as strong as our offensive cup. So how do we do that? How can we achieve that in training, right? The main thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to open up your game. Whether that be from a defensive side, you're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to start to try to do things that you normally wouldn't do within jiu-jitsu. You open by opening up your game, accepting the fact that you will get put into bad positions every now and then, but those bad positions are going to be good for your jiu-jitsu later on. They're going to make your defensive game even better because you're going to be opening up your offense, which is going to then lead for you to get your guard pass. It's going to lead to you getting submitted, getting your back taken, getting transitioned on. And overall, over time, that's going to give you a better holistic view of jiu-jitsu, and it's going to make you better as a jiu-jitsu player across the board, right? And on the offensive side, you're going to have to do something a little bit that you might not want to do. You're going to have to give up position. Maybe you're going to have to, you don't have to just blatantly start under side control, although that's a great way to do it. Just do some drills under side control, do drills under mount, do drills with people on your back. And your mindset's going to have to change too. You're going to have to start to think about how good it feels to actually be able to escape a bad position, right? You should get just as good a feeling as you do escaping a bad position as you do as being in control of a good position or getting a submission, okay? So you need to change your mindset as opposed to thinking that only good positions make you feel good on the mat, or that only controlling someone is the only way to win jiu-jitsu. Actually, if you hold me down in jiu-jitsu, if you hold me down in side control and you're good at side control and I'm able to escape your side control, that's winning. That's actually winning the match. You're getting out, you're no longer being held down, and you're advancing your defensive cup. You're adding water to your defensive cup. So if you're one of those people that's on the mat, and this goes into the motivation video that I made the other day as well. If you're a person who's on the mat and you're feeling a little bit like unmotivated, this can be a reason why. Doing the same thing over and over and over in every class is going to make you unmotivated. It's going to be boring. If you're rolling with everybody and you're smashing everybody and you're not allowing yourself to grow within jiu-jitsu, then yeah, it's going to get boring. You're going to get demotivated and you're going to think to yourself, like, what's the point, right? But I guarantee if you go to the club and you switch it up, let's say you're passing everybody's guard, you're starting to get a little, I'm good at put yourself on the bottom and see how good you are on the bottom. And if you feel like you're crap on the bottom, then start working for the bottom. And that motivation is going to go through the roof because now you've got something new to work on. You've got new skills to develop. You've got new pathways to see, new timing to hit. You're going to be able to understand that top position better when you get to it as well, because you understand the bottom position and what's required to escape those bottom positions. So my advice to people doing jiu-jitsu is an overall advice. It's not really dedicated to techniques as such, but like a blanket overall advice is try to fill both cups. Once you've got out of that white belt sort of stage of like only defending and not having much success, as you start to build up into that blue, purple, brown, you want to be getting to a certain point with your cups, defensive and offensive, and then adding water at the same time. And a good way to do that is try to get 50% offense a night, try to get 50% defense. If you find yourself rolling and you're if your offensive positioning is good all night, spend a couple of rounds, go underneath someone and start working on your defensive positioning. If you're doing 6 rounds a night, do 3 where you're working your offense, 3 when you're working defense. Maybe start, if you're a black belt and you're the best guy in your gym, start in arm locks, start with people on the back with chokes, start in triangles, all right? Start under side control with the heaviest guy in the room. Start under crossface half guard with a crossface underhook. Put yourself in the worst positions possible and see how you can start to work your way out. Even if you've got guys in your club that give you a good run and you'd never get out, let's say you do a 6-minute round and you've got a good competitive black belt, you're a black belt, you've got another good competitive black belt in your gym, jump under his side control. And if you don't get out, it's okay. Just keep working, because you're just adding to that defensive cup because your offensive cup is already full. So just build that back up and then you'll have that good offense and good defense. And that's going to help motivate you, and it's going to help with your overall training, and it's going to make you explore all these different positions within jiu-jitsu that you would not normally go to. So that's my advice. Fill both cups.